like it's just too long in between the times we see each other.
What are those evenings for?
Think that every day.
Good 18 hours.
I know.
Yeah. You missed us.
No, I miss you guys more. Okay?
That's hard to envision. I was going to ask you, aside from Byron Jones, is there anyone on the team whose status you think is in question for the regular season opener?
Was that loaded?
Well, Byron, I know you.
That was loaded as. Come on.
So
All right. Yeah,
you know,
stop giving me the rookie treatment, okay? All right. I'm prepared for this. So, what?
Is outside of Byron Jones, whose status, must play out. I know you said you're optimistic for the opener. Outside of him, is there a question about anyone else's availability for New England September 11th based on the injury information you've got?
There's, I think all the guys that we've discussed that are on the active roster, there's no surprises, at all. We're working diligently to change that PUP to full go, and when that happens, we'll have more information. But no, there's not off the top of my head would there be any surprises. I try not to keep surprises from you guys.
I guess I'll be a little bit more specific with Byron. Do you expect him this week to be able to practice?
With Byron, the biggest thing is he'll. You really don't have to worry about there being any secret agenda. It's the same as it has been. The thing with him is, you guys will know immediately when he's able to practice, because then he'll be taken off PUP. So there won't be any surprise attacks with that.
Jalen Waddle and John Armstead. Waddle just two practices. Armstead like half kind of last week's practice. And Armstead actually the game. How are they doing?
Both of them are doing real well. With Armstead, that's a guy that's done it in the league at a high level, and we're trying to make sure that he's ready to go week one. And he's, we evaluate that on a day-to-day basis. He's been practicing, but we're trying not to overload him. He has invested a good amount this off season, more typically than he usually does. So we're just trying to be smart with that. And I don't have any concerns for week one at all. And the plan is to that you guys will see him a little bit this week for sure. With Waddle, that's just an exercise of what would you call it? A really restraint, because it would be one thing. I think I'd probably be less cautious had he not come back from his out of any player on the team, his jump in the scheme from OTAs to training camp was the highest. Like he was doing well, but kind of swimming in the playbook. And I was very interested to see a second-year guy with his first off season, how he's going to come back for training camp, and he exceeded my expectations, and you guys know I have high expectations for him. So when we noticed something that was a little tight, and just we really wanted to be preventative, we've been extra cautious with him because just knowing where he's at in his game within the offense and how well he was doing. So this week we plan to get him involved a little bit, but I plan to be very cautious with him as well, just knowing what he means to the team and how we don't want him to have any lingering setbacks. We want him full speed, and we rely on him for a multitude of things, and we want to make sure that that he is comfortable and 100% full go. I mean, shoot, he's starting to get pretty annoyed with how cautious we're being. But I think it's to his credit, and I think it's the best thing for the Dolphins, and I think you guys would be mad at me if I wasn't.
Coach, what goes in your process of selecting a guest speaker for the team at the team meetings? I know you all have different visitors throughout this course of this training camp, but what goes in your process of selecting?
If like guys that have really achieved high things in whatever their walk is, whether it's football primarily, but out of all the pool of guys, whoever says the strongest compliments to me and strokes my ego the most. No, it all depends on what you're trying to get across. We have so much access here in the city of Miami, and then just the people involved in the organization, to various people that have done such great things in their life, whether it's football or it's MMA or whatever it is. So it's all about, finding people that in one way, shape, or form can help deliver and reiterate and maybe give a new framing to the messaging that's important for where our team's at. So it's just kind of like you look and see who maybe would inspire, maybe who, they hear my voice every day. So maybe a different voice hitting the same point at a different angle to just better hit home things for the team to hear, as well as I think there's something to be said about experiencing things together, a shared experience where you get someone that's elite at whatever they're doing to come and speak, and it's pretty cool. Well, you're sharing that with your teammates in that moment, and that just kind of brings you together that much more with that shared common experience. So I don't trivialize the players' time in the least. They know I put a lot of time into team meetings in general, so that when someone's able to come into our close quarters and enter our circle, it's something that they regard or they have high regard for, and generally it's through our experience has been pretty successful with getting the points across that we need across.
I'm sorry, on that same topic, I was curious what you took away from your visit with Eric Spoelstra last week, and did he talk to the team?
No, that was awesome. There's he had some of the staff members there too, and it was, that his experience is just so unique in that he came in as a rookie head coach, and I think he had pretty high expectations off the jump, and then to carry on success in different formulas. I think I'm not sure if this is true, but I think he was like, I think Boston had something going on, but he was one of the, the formula that's pretty popular in the NBA now of having three superstars. He had success doing that, and then he also had success in different ways, and just in maintaining one type of culture, and then able to do it with a roster that was built, or really the production from the roster coming a little more spread out, 7, 8, 9 people deep. So we just talked really a lot about the commonalities. They were really, it was interesting. He was pretty interested in yak, which was a cool conversation, because a lot of the terms that we use for yak, I kind of use basketball terms to kind of illustrate it. So that was a cool conversation as well. But it was more like, just can we get things from each other? Very, very different sports, but very similar in that we're all dealing with a time where the athletes are as athletic and finely tuned as they've ever been in their lives. As a result, you have to train them differently. The days of the case in point, Larry Zonka, Don Shula 4 days. Those are things of the past. He even spoke about, things are a little bit different in how they approach things since 2010. And the physicality of practices and all those things. There's a lot of commonality, even though the sports are very different. And it was just an awesome opportunity to have him around. I'm pretty sure that Tyreek jumped on the opportunity to land some courtside tickets in the process as well. I was grinding for that. When Tyreek first got here, he asked me for tickets to the Heat game, and I was like, "You're talking to the wrong guy. I do not have a connection."
So much talk in basketball about spacing and ball movement and screens and picks. I'm not the biggest basketball fan, but I don't know how much you watch, but I'm sort of wondering how that relates to getting your receivers into open position.
Oh, you got me going now. You're dead right though. We had the same conversation. So I floated out here because I don't pretend to be an expert on basketball, but in my experience and just generation, right? We've watched 3-point percentages completely change, the range and where good shots are taken from. Fast break 3-pointers, and just how the shooting range of players expands the defense. They have to guard more floor space, which in theoretically, and kind of the way we look at football, specifically on the offense, is we're trying to make a defense defend maximum amount of space. So, we do that with our principles of outside zone, but also speed. One of the reasons why you like speed is because now the defense has to defend more ground. So it's kind of a similar philosophy of creating space. You do it in basketball with shooters, so then you have to draw defenders out, giving more space underneath. And you do it in football with playing fast and having speed, so that in the timing of the play, defenders have to defend that much more area. Because that's all in both sports. Defenses are trying to do the same thing, and that's really, you're trying to compress the area that they have to defend. So it was a really cool conversation. It's something that we couldn't really forecast exactly where it was going to go, but I think it was beneficial for both, and there are some commonalities for sure in that.
Mike, where do you stand on the possibility, and maybe you're going to recoil when I say this, of using one roster spot out of 53 for a third string quarterback?
Where do I stand? Well, as I stand behind this podium, I think you just, the 53 is for the 53 best players. So you're open to whatever. You have to consider a lot of different things, and sometimes that leaves you short or heavy in certain positions. But what I've found in my career is that you don't pigeonhole yourself and make absolutes. You'd like to carry a certain amount of players, and you'd like to have your cake and eat it too a lot of times. But when individuals' performances merit it, you have to keep the 53 best players. So I'm not I've done both in my career. I've had 2. I've had 3. There could be a scenario down the line someday that you'd want 4. And it might make sense, but I'm not completely resistant to anything like that. We're in the business of keeping good football players, and you don't always get to decide where they come from.
Your rookie class has been very productive so far in the first 2 preseason games, and I think according to the Jimmy Johnson draft chart, you guys had the least amount of draft capital in that regards this year. How is that able to happen where you don't have the draft capital, but they're still producing at a high level?
Well, you just know that you can't stop developing from the ground up, so to speak, on an NFL roster. So when you have limited resources, this wasn't the first time in my career I've been a part of that, but you just know the stakes. So you try to use those. The fact that you have limited resources means that you can spend more time in a given area projection of the draft. But it also puts pressure on you, like, hey, we can't afford to miss, because then you have players under rookie contract that, that's the way the CBA is written and the way the salary cap is. It catches up to you if you don't have contributions from successive draft classes. So it's to the credit of the Chris Greer and the scouting department, all the position coaches and coordinators. When you have those limited resources, you need to get some contribution from the class. So you have to really dig your heels in and make sure that you're not missing on those limited selections and opportunities.
Mike, do you change your philosophy or practice plan from the first joint practice against Tampa to the Eagles, knowing you're a little bit closer to the season?
Yeah, I mean, you're always. I really, really test the entire building and the organization with changes, because it's my philosophy to always change, to think through stuff. Maybe it doesn't change, but a lot of times you're altering stuff depending on your exact situation. I think that's more to do with the amount of reps that you can take, and where you're feeling, where your most depth is, the decisions that you have to make in the pending future and those opportunities. Are you asking from a schematic?
Well, I mean, against Tampa, we saw a lot of one-on-ones and high-intensity stuff. Does that change, or you take advantage of that now, knowing you do have time off between? There's like a week in between the last preseason game.
No, that's the nature of joint practices. Like, it's hard. Guys are competitive, and you plateau to a degree when you're going against the same people all the time. But then you get this random influx of different types of players, and the competitor in each individual player. Like, even if we tried to tone down the intensity, it'd be hard, because they want to beat that guy across from them and prove it, and they get more opportunities in joint practices where, you can go a quarter as a receiver and maybe not catch man coverage. Or if you do catch man coverage, maybe the ball doesn't go to you. Well, joint practice, you line up, and how many one reps can I take? Because if I take 6, I know I'm going to get 6 man-to-man opportunities and get the ball 6 times. So what can I do with that? Those are that, with exception, the only thing that we really would adjust is maybe the length of it, but the intensity and exactly what you're doing, that's hard to adjust, and that kind of defeats the purpose of the joint practices.
There's been a rising number of teams, I guess, in the last few years running similar variants of your offense. There's always the offense catching up to defense catching up to offense. I'm curious your early, observations of how defenses are maybe adjusting to what you guys have at least shown in this point of preseason.
No, I think it's you're exactly right. It is cyclical, and people are always evolving because people are always working, because there's always competition within the coaching ranks of who can have the answers to the test. I do think that there are the second people put something on tape that proves one way or the other on both sides of the ball to give something problems, you'll continue to see it again. That's cyclical, and you just kind of have to figure out how to take advantage of that, because when you're defending one thing, you're not defending another thing. So I think that, it started probably in 2018. Teams really started kind of showing up on game day against our offense and displaying stuff they hadn't put on tape before. That at that point in time was very concerning, or it would just really rattle players and coaches alike, because you just weren't used to all of a sudden a defense showing up. Besides when you'd play like the Patriots or something, the teams were kind of what they were. But that has been something that through all those reps you kind of get used to, and so it's both the idea of having people come to game day and try stuff differently. I've become a lot more comfortable with as the years have gone on, as well as those little, it's a copycat league, so if you see edge pressure one week, you're going to see it again, and it's just like in the regular season. It's similar formula in the preseason, because then defenses get the opportunity to say, hey, well, this worked for this team. We don't plan on doing this, so shoot, what do we got to lose? Let's do it against this team in preseason and throw their opponents off the scent and make them prepare for the stuff they just put in preseason. So it's a nice, low-cost, high-reward formula that fortunately, it was unfortunate at one time, but fortunately I've been used to and have a lot of reps at going through the years.
Thank you, guys.
Hey,
Pleasure.
when's the next time?
Tuesday at 9:30.